Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In the first story, we'll talk about the terrible working conditions in which our OP found himself and how he coped with it. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Bingo, bango, sugar in the gas tank. I work for a landscaping company, Springmasters, now known as Canadian Property Stars, that operated more as a MLM scheme. I only worked for them for like a week. They mostly targeted students and immigrants who needed work in the summertime and would take anything with promises like make your own schedule, make X, Y an hour, and work outside. They target desperate people, those without proper documentation even, and they paid cash so everything was under the table. And I'm 100% certain they were not paying taxes. I was stupid enough to go for it when I was 18. Went to the info seminar and instantly got terrible vibes, but I figured, I don't have anything else going on, so why not? The day of, they pick us up in a cube van, like 15 people crammed in without seatbelts, and drive us to a location. Then they give us aeration machines and we go around trying to sell plants and aerating lawns. Basically, whatever you sold, you would keep 10% of the money and the company kept the other 90%. So you had to work like a 15-hour day in the hot summer sun. No supervision at all, no bathroom breaks or anything else unless you chose to take them yourself, and you'd have to find a bathroom to use too. Anyway, I did this for a few days, and the pay was miserable. Let's say you collect $1,200, well, you get to keep $120. $120 divided by 15 hours is $8 an hour. And at the time, minimum wage was higher than that. Well, sometimes I got a little higher than that, but much of the time it was around minimum wage or lower. The second day we went and showed up, they drove us to another city an hour away. It was pouring effing rain all day. Nobody wanted to buy, I don't blame them, and nobody wanted their lawn aerated in the pouring rain. So I ended up with like nothing at the end of the day, and it was miserable. The next time I came back in the morning, we drove out to some suburb, and the guy gives me this talk about how last time I didn't make enough money and I needed to pick up the slack this time because these machines are expensive. I'm clearly not trying hard enough, etc. Well, that pissed me right off. So that day I took the aeration machine out and busted my effing butt. Did my best to sell, did the aerations where I could, worked up a sweat. I'd collected $1,800 by the end of the day. At the end of the day, you would wait at a certain spot and they'd pick you up with the machine and bring you back to the station so you could deliver the money and get your cut. So instead of going to the pickup spot, I went to the grocery store and bought a bag of sugar and poured it in the gas tank of the aeration machine and left it by the side of the road. Then I took the bus home and pocketed all the money. I ignored all their phone calls and eventually they stopped calling. They never took identification or social insurance numbers or anything, so they had no real proof I even worked there in the first place. This was about 10 years ago, and now my only regret is that I didn't do it that first day. And our second story. A story of why you should always pay your web designer. So I have had a client that decided he didn't want to pay the full price for my web design services after he signed the agreement. What happened was he paid my 50% deposit and I sent him the beta version on my server. He took that link to other designers and asked them to build it for cheaper. When he found a designer who would, he told me he was no longer needing a website for his business and wanted to terminate. When I said he was on the hook for the amount, he ignored me for a week, then told me he hated the website. I sent collections after him and the agent found out he had another designer working for him. This new designer charges $350 for a complete website with a year of hosting and SEO. What happened next is phenomenal. New designer couldn't copy my website, so he provided an HTML, no responsive to boot website instead. Collection agent gave me the new website, and when I looked, it was okay looking. I checked the source, and right in the header tag it said, mirrored from. His designer copied the code, pictures, slogan, and favicon from this other company. Being the good little designer I am, I contacted the company and asked if they knew their website had been copied. Obviously, they did not. I sent a bunch of screen caps and information to him. Owner of the website contacted my ex-client and ripped him a new one. Client threw the designer under the bus, so the company owner called the designer next. owner of the company, threatened corporate lawyers on him. By 11 p.m. last night, the website was offline. By 7 a.m. this morning, a new website was up, again mirrored from a hair and beauty salon in Las Vegas. So I called the web designer of that website and let him know. His response? Of all the websites I've done, they copied that one? He called the designer, and the designer responded by removing the mirrored from tags in the code. Original designer will be doing a little research and starting the process for theft of intellectual property tomorrow. Because I'm a horrible person, I went through this designer's profile and found a few more copied websites and sent screen caps of pages and the code to each of the original owners, as well as information on what to do. If someone wants to copy code and learn from it, fine, but don't sell someone's hard work as your own. At this point, I don't even care if I get paid from my ex-client because I've been so amused by this entire saga. But I updated my collections agent, and after he was done laughing, he was going to call my ex-client back and recommend he pay me completely and get the original website I created for him, rather than the mirrored hack jobs he also paid for. And our last story. Talk to me any way you please? Nah, have fun losing the entire staff along with the juiciest of juicy contracts. I was a rink rat growing up. I dove deep into speed skating and not trying to toot my own horn, but I was pretty good and well known. Anyway, I'd been going to this specific skating rink for years and knew everyone. One day, the owner came up to me and asked me to go out on the rink floor and tell some kids to slow down. I did, and came back, and he asked me how would I like to make $7.50 an hour, to which I responded, do I also get in for free? He laughed and said, of course. Boom, first job, and I wanted to be there anyway, so it was the biggest win-win of all time for me. To say I loved it was an understatement, and I did everything besides work the snack bar. DJ, skate counters, floor guard, janitor, hype man, you name it, and I did it. It was some of the greatest times of my life. So much fun, and the owner was super awesome. Also, we were paid under the table, so getting an envelope full of cash every week just felt like a bonus for having fun. To me, it wasn't a job, it was pure fun. It also helped that all my friends were regulars as well. A few years go by, and the owner sold to another guy who we'll call Tim. Tim could be an absolute nightmare to work for. He changed the entire dynamic of the place, and everyone felt it. Now, this skating rink was popular and extremely old. Lots of people all over the city knew of it. My mom and aunt skated there when they were kids, if that tells you anything. Some way or another, the new owner set up a juicy deal that had the rink making a crap load of money. On Saturday night from 7 to 11, it was skating per usual. But from 11 to 2 or 3-ish, it was a club. A local hip-hop station came in there with local label Swishahouse and turned the place upside down for those few hours. Every week, the place was poppin'. There must have been over 2,000 people in there on average, and $20 per person, it adds up quick. Plus, the snack bar would never stop turning out food and drink. We were making stupid money. Bonus, we also found some good stuff when cleaning up as well. Money, knives, booze, jewelry. It was awesome. So Tim has it made, but sometimes he would fly off the handle for little things. All of us weren't sure what the deal was, but he would explode out of nowhere and start talking all kinds of nonsense. I started to have enough because I'd worked there for so many years without issue. One night he went too far. I don't like being called outside of my name. It's a respect thing. My own mother didn't do it, and he for sure wasn't. For context, I was in 10th grade now. One night he was in some kind of mood and for whatever reason was taking it out on everyone. Now, I don't remember the exact situation, but he started freaking out on me at about 11:30 p.m. Now, Slim Thug and Paul Wall were in the building that night, so the place was extra packed, way more than usual. I'm sure we were breaking all kinds of fire marshal rules, LOL. He went ballistic and called me every name in the book while I just stood there with rage building up in me. I'd had enough. For years, this place ran flawlessly and everyone loved us, so he really didn't have a good reason to treat us in the manner he did. My plan was formed. I immediately gathered everyone else that was working, and we all decided that enough was enough. It was time for a lesson. I assembled the entire crew, and we all quit on the spot. All of us. That meant nobody to serve food, clean, help with the Swishahouse people, or just carry out general things that needed to be done when 2,000 to 3,000 people were in the building. He was stunned. His tone changed and he became very sweet. We weren't having it. As an additional FU, I called the other 2 people that were off, and they showed up to quit as well. Tim had already reached out, so he assumed they were showing up to work. Nope. We left him 0 workers on the absolute busiest of busy nights. And boy, did it implode. He couldn't find anyone to work, so the place went to absolute crap that night. The on-duty officer told him he needed to figure something out or he was going to close it down without workers. Well, he didn't. It closed down that night, and apparently without staff, it got nasty. People started doing inappropriate things, trashing the place, and all kinds of stuff. Shortly after, the radio station and label took their business elsewhere, and not long afterward, the place closed down. He lost his entire investment. This was very bittersweet for me because I loved the place, but he ran it into the ground. The building is still standing, and I would love to bring it back to its former glory, but my pockets aren't deep enough yet. Maybe one day. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.